Big Pharma chide, this 3-ingredient secret replaces 30 supplements forever. I am standing in my kitchen right now. It is 6:47 in the morning, February. Outside my window in rural Ohio, the temperature is 19 degrees Fahrenheit, and there is frost on every surface. On my counter, I have 3 things. A jar of raw honey I bought at a farmer's market in Columbus for $6.40. A brown bottle of apple cider vinegar from the bottom shelf of my local Kroger, $1.89. And a small paper bag of ground turmeric from an Indian grocery store on the east side of town, $2.12. Total, $10.41. I've been standing here every morning for 4 months doing the same thing, and in those 4 months I have not opened my medicine cabinet once. Not once. Not for the joint pain that woke me up every morning for 11 years. Not for the digestion issues that cost me $1,400 in specialist visits last year alone. Not for the brain fog that I genuinely believed was just aging. 6 months ago, I would have called someone a liar for telling me that was possible. I need to tell you something before we go any further. I am not a doctor. I am not a nutritionist. I am a 51-year-old man from Dayton, Ohio, who spent 28 years, and by my best accounting, somewhere north of $31,000 on supplements, prescription medications, specialist co-pays, and over-the-counter remedies for problems that never actually went away. 28 years. I watched my medicine cabinet fill up like a pharmacy shelf. I watched my monthly supplement budget climb from $40 in 1996 to over $320 by 2022. I watched every new product promise exactly what the last one promised and deliver exactly what the last one delivered. Almost nothing. I thought that was just how the body worked as you aged. I thought inflammation was inevitable. I thought fatigue was the price of getting older. I thought that was just how health worked after 50. It is not how health works after 50. There is a protocol. 3 ingredients, costs less than $11 per month to maintain. The pharmaceutical supplement industry buried clinical awareness of this protocol starting in 1962, when the National Institutes of Health conducted an internal review of naturally occurring compounds and their commercial viability. I did not find this in a wellness blog. I did not find it on social media. I found it in the archived research correspondence of Dr. Linus Pauling, 2-time Nobel Prize laureate, whose private letters to the NIH, digitized by Oregon State University's Linus Pauling Institute and sitting in a public archive, document, in precise clinical language, the systematic exclusion of natural compound research from mainstream pharmaceutical funding channels. The letters are dated between 1962 and 1974. They are not secret, they are just unread, because almost nobody looks. This knowledge is ancient, I mean that literally. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, an Egyptian medical document dating to approximately 1600 BCE, currently housed at the New York Academy of Medicine, contains the earliest recorded therapeutic use of honey as an antimicrobial wound treatment. Not folk remedy, medical documentation. The father of Western medicine, Hippocrates of Kos, writing around 400 BCE, prescribed diluted apple cider vinegar. He called it oxymel, a mixture of vinegar and honey, for persistent coughs, respiratory infections, and digestive complaints. That prescription is in the Hippocratic corpus. It is still accessible. The Sushruta Samhita, the foundational surgical text of Ayurvedic medicine, written in ancient India around 600 BCE, documents turmeric and black pepper as a combined anti-inflammatory compound used in surgical recovery. Combined, together. The synergistic relationship between these 2 compounds was understood 2,500 years before the word pharmaceutical existed. Medieval European monasteries, the infirmary records of Christ Church Priory in Canterbury, England, dated 1220 CE, are held in the Canterbury Cathedral archives. Those records list raw honey as the primary treatment for infected wounds, respiratory illness, and digestive obstruction. The pilgrims who came to Canterbury did not bring prescriptions. They brought knowledge. Colonial American households kept apple cider vinegar as a standard medical supply. The Household Management Guides, published in Boston in 1736, listed it alongside bandaging material and fever remedies as a non-negotiable domestic necessity. Every civilization, every era, every geography, the same three compounds appearing in the same therapeutic roles. This was not folk medicine. This was the engineering standard of every civilization that needed the human body to function without a pharmaceutical supply chain. Now let me give you the science, because this is not about tradition. This is about mechanism, music, raw honey. And I mean raw, unfiltered, unpasteurized honey, not the bear-shaped plastic bottle that has been heated to 160 degrees Fahrenheit and stripped of everything that makes it medically relevant. Raw honey contains hydrogen peroxide as a natural byproduct of the enzyme glucose oxidase. It contains methyl glyoxal, a compound with documented antimicrobial properties against over 60 bacterial strains, including Staphylococcus aureus. It contains 22 free amino acids, 31 different minerals including zinc, magnesium and selenium, and a complex of polyphenol antioxidants that researchers at the University of California, Davis identified in a 2020 study as comparable in antioxidant density to many pharmaceutical-grade supplements. The mechanism is not mysterious. Honey is a biological factory that your body recognizes at the cellular level, because humans have been consuming it for over 2.5 million years. Your immune system does not have to decode it. It knows exactly what to do with it. Apple cider vinegar. The active compound is acetic acid, produced during the secondary fermentation of apple sugars by Acetobacter bacteria. What acetic acid does inside your digestive system is this. It lowers the pH of your stomach environment, which triggers more complete protein digestion, reduces pathogenic bacterial overgrowth, and improves the bioavailability of minerals from the food you eat. A 2018 study published in the Journal of Functional Foods, conducted by researchers at Mizken Holdings in collaboration with Osaka University, demonstrated statistically significant reduction in fasting blood glucose levels in participants consuming 15 milliliters of apple cider vinegar daily over 12 weeks. 15 milliliters, 1 tablespoon. But the effect that changed my life personally was the digestive one. Within 8 days of starting the morning ACV protocol, the bloating I had experienced after every meal for 6 years was gone. Not reduced, gone. I want to be precise about that because I know how that sounds and I know how it felt. Turmeric and black pepper. This is the one that made me genuinely angry when I understood the mechanism. Curcumin, the primary bioactive compound in turmeric root, is the most extensively studied natural anti-inflammatory compound on Earth. As of 2024, there are over 15,000 peer-reviewed studies indexed in PubMed, referencing curcumin's effects on inflammation, oxidative stress, neurological function, and joint health. 15,000 studies, and the vast majority of Americans have no idea what curcumin does because it is not sold in a $40 bottle with a celebrity endorsement. Here is the catch that the supplement industry never tells you. Curcumin has extremely low bioavailability on its own. Taken without a specific companion compound, your body absorbs less than 1% of it. Less than 1%. But piperine, the active alkaloid in black pepper, inhibits the intestinal enzymes that break curcumin down before absorption. The result, documented by researchers at St. John's Medical College in Bangalore, in a study that has been replicated multiple times across multiple institutions, is a 2,000% increase in curcumin bioavailability, 2,000%, from adding a quarter teaspoon of black pepper to your turmeric, a compound that costs 12 cents. The supplement industry sells you curcumin pills for $38 to $55 per bottle. They do not tell you about the black pepper, because if they told you about the black pepper, you would not need the $55 bottle. So when did this stop being common knowledge in America and Britain? I will tell you exactly when. 1962. That is the year the Kefauver-Harris Amendment to the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act was passed in the United States, requiring pharmaceutical manufacturers to prove efficacy before marketing. The amendment was necessary and largely good, but it had an unintended consequence that the industry exploited immediately. Proving efficacy requires clinical trials. Clinical trials require funding. Funding requires a return on investment. A return on investment requires a patent. You cannot patent honey. You cannot patent apple cider vinegar. You cannot patent turmeric or black pepper. They are naturally occurring substances. What cannot be patented cannot generate licensing revenue. What cannot generate licensing revenue cannot attract clinical trial funding. What cannot attract clinical trial funding cannot build the evidence base that gets taught in medical schools. What does not get taught in medical schools does not get recommended by doctors. What does not get recommended by doctors disappears from public consciousness one generation at a time. No boardroom meeting, no coordinated suppression, just a funding structure that systematically rewards the synthetic and ignores the natural. The supplement industry in the United States alone generates $157 billion annually. Globally, it is approaching $210 billion. That system does not need to actively suppress natural remedies. It just needs to never fund research on them, and it never does. 4 months ago, first Monday of October, I started the protocol. Here is exactly what I did. Every morning at 6:30 before eating anything, I mix 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, Bragg's Organic Raw Unfiltered, the one with the mother culture visible at the bottom, available at Walmart, Target, every major grocery chain in the US and UK, into 8 ounces of room temperature water, not cold. Room temperature, because cold water constricts the stomach lining and reduces absorption. I drink it in under 2 minutes. I wait 20 minutes. Then I eat breakfast. Midday with lunch, I add half a teaspoon of ground turmeric and a quarter teaspoon of black pepper to whatever I'm eating. Soup, eggs, roasted vegetables, it does not matter. The fat in the food further enhances curcumin absorption. At night, 30 minutes before sleep, I take 1 tablespoon of raw honey directly, not mixed in tea, directly, because the antimicrobial and antioxidant compounds in raw honey are partially degraded by heat above 95 degrees Fahrenheit. The total cost of this protocol, purchasing all 3 items at standard US retail prices, is between $9 and $12 per month. $9 to $12. My previous supplement budget was $320 per month. The difference is $308 per month. That is $3,696 per year that I was spending on products that did less. Let me tell you what happened to my body, because I tracked it. Week 1. The bloating after meals that I had experienced daily for 6 years stopped by day 8. Completely. I have a note in my phone. October 8th, it just says, "No bloating today." First time I can remember. Week 2. I woke up on a Wednesday and I was already awake before my alarm. I had not done that in years. The brain fog that typically sat on me until my second cup of coffee was not there. I made breakfast and realized halfway through that I felt clear. Present. Week 3. The joint stiffness in my right knee. I had a meniscus injury in 2009 that never fully resolved and that had been giving me morning pain every day for 11 years. On day 19 of the protocol, I walked downstairs and reached the bottom before I registered that I had not felt the usual stiffness. I stood there for a moment. Week 4, I had a follow-up blood panel scheduled with my GP in Dayton. My fasting blood glucose had dropped from 108, pre-diabetic range, to 94, normal range. My GP asked what I had changed. I told him. He was quiet for a moment and then said, and I'm quoting him directly, "There is good research on all 3 of those. I just cannot recommend them because I have no clinical protocol to put you on." I appreciated his honesty, but I want you to sit with what he said. There is good research. He just cannot recommend it, because the system has no mechanism for recommending things that cannot be prescribed. Now, I need to tell you something that the wellness industry does not tell you either, because there is a safety element to this that is not optional. Apple cider vinegar is acidic, pH approximately 2.5 to 3.0. Consumed undiluted and over an extended period, it can erode tooth enamel and irritate the esophageal lining. This is documented. A case study published in the Journal of the American Dental Association in 2012 documented significant enamel erosion in a young woman who had consumed undiluted apple cider vinegar daily for 2 years. Always dilute. 1 tablespoon in at minimum 6 to 8 ounces of water. If you have a history of acid reflux or gastroparesis, consult your physician before starting. I'm not telling you this as a disclaimer. I'm telling you this because this protocol is real and real things have real contraindications, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you something. The supplement industry in the United States spends approximately $900 million per year on direct-to-consumer advertising. In the UK, the figure is proportionally similar relative to market size. That advertising budget is not spent educating you about raw honey and black pepper. It is spent creating the perception that health requires complexity, proprietary blends, patented delivery systems, bioavailability enhancement technology that costs $45 per bottle and does approximately what black pepper does for 12 cents. The patent argument is the entire story. You cannot patent honey. What cannot be patented cannot generate licensing revenue. What cannot generate licensing revenue cannot be advertised. What is not advertised disappears from public knowledge 1 generation at a time. That is not a conspiracy. That is just a market that rewards complexity and punishes simplicity. Here is what I did not expect to find. The detail that was buried inside the buried information. When I went back to the Linus Pauling Institute archive, the correspondence I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there is a letter dated March 14th, 1971, from Pauling to a colleague at Stanford named Dr. Arthur Robinson. In that letter, Pauling references a specific preparation method for honey that he calls enzymatic preservation, where raw honey is combined with fresh-pressed lemon juice at a ratio of 3 parts honey to 1 part lemon, allowed to stand at room temperature for 48 hours before consumption. What happens during that 48 hours is a secondary enzymatic reaction, where the citric acid in the lemon juice activates additional polyphenol compounds in the honey that are otherwise metabolically inert. Pauling described the resulting compound as approximately 3 times more bioavailable in terms of antioxidant delivery than raw honey consumed immediately after harvesting. 3 times, from adding lemon juice and waiting 48 hours. The lemon costs 31 cents. The preparation time is 48 hours of sitting on your counter. I have been using this preparation for 6 weeks. I do not have a clinical measure for what changed, but I can tell you that the sleep quality improvement I noticed in week 4 deepened noticeably in week 8. Make of that what you will. I spent 28 years doing this wrong. $31,000, that is not a health story. That is 28 years of a system operating exactly the way it was designed to operate. A system that requires your continued dependence to generate its continued revenue. A system that has no financial incentive to tell you that the answer costs $11 a month and has been documented in medical literature since 400 BCE. You and I now share something that $210 billion a year depends on us not knowing. That is not a small thing. Think about what that means for a moment. $210 billion, dependent on you not knowing what Hippocrates prescribed, what monastic infirmaries documented in 1220, what your great-grandmother kept in her pantry not as a food item, but as medicine. Here is what I want you to do right now. Go to the comments below this video and type the number of supplements you are currently taking every day. Just the number, nothing else. I want to see it, because I think most of you watching this are somewhere between 8 and 15, and I want you to look at that number after you type it and ask yourself when you last felt genuinely well. There is a complete written protocol in the description below this video. Exact amounts, exact timing, exact sourcing guidance for both US and UK readers, including which brands at which retailers have been independently tested for adulteration. It is free. It will always be free. And before you close this tab, think of one person, one specific person in your life who is spending money every month on a medicine cabinet that is not working. Send them this video, not because I asked you to, because you now know something that they do not, and you have the opportunity to change that in the next 30 seconds. Next week, I'm going into something that made me more angry than anything in this video. There is a sleep compound. One naturally occurring amino acid costs $4 for a 3-month supply, used as a standard hospital sleep aid in the UK National Health Service from 1948 through 1983, that was systematically replaced by a class of synthetic sleep medications that are now the subject of over 14,000 personal injury lawsuits in the United States alone. I have the original NHS formulary documents. I have the pharmaceutical company internal memos released during the litigation discovery process. I have all of it. And I will show you exactly what they replaced, exactly why they replaced it, and exactly where you can still find the original compound at any chemist in Britain or any health food store in America for under $5. Stay close.